Boston cop is a Boston cop. You would assume that immediately you would take up for the other cop. Why didn't they?
Because they killed him. Whereas you see Brian Higgins at the end of the waterfall video yelling in John's direction, and he's got to be held back by Chris Albert and Brian Albert. When he saw the tail light when it was towed from Karen Reed's parents' house, he said it absolutely did not look like it did after state police took custody of it.
This is Unshaken and Unafraid with Joe Pags.
It's a case that completely took this nation by storm, and I think they actually internationally, people are watching this as well. The case of Karen Reed in Massachusetts, Canton, Massachusetts. This guy is the reason why I know. His name is Aiden Kearney.
Kearney.
It's Kearney, almost like C-A-R, but it's not. It's Kearney. You might know him better as Turtleboy. Aiden, nice to meet you. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Really a pleasure to have you on. The reason I know about the case is because of you. Actually, the reason I know about the case is because my wife saw you reporting on this case, and it turns out it's one of those things that you couldn't make a movie out of. Aiden, I don't think people would believe the story if you made a movie out of it. How did you become aware of it?
I became aware of it just because, it was in the news in February of 2022 when it first happened. Local cop dies, girlfriend's arrested. It was a temporary spotlight for a couple days there. And I honestly forgot about it. It just seemed like a tragedy. It really wasn't that interesting of a story until I read about it 15 months later. I started reading the court filings on it, and I saw that the defense was alleging that she didn't do it and that there was a conspiracy, that the people inside the house where his body was found, that they killed him. And then I kind of went down the rabbit hole from there, and it was just crazy.
Again, it's Turtleboy. Go to tbdailynews.com. That's his website, tbdailynews.com. And again, his name is Aiden Kearney. So, Aiden, I would try to nutshell it and tell the people who aren't familiar with the case, but it might take me too long. Could you give me a minute? And just, if somebody had never heard of the case, why should I be interested in it? Can you give me like a minute just explaining it?
Yeah, so I would say that it is a woman was framed for murdering her Boston police officer boyfriend, John O'Keefe. Right. She dropped him off at a party that night at another Boston police officer's house named Brian Albert. And 6 hours later, she got mad at him when he didn't call her back. And then a few hours later, she went out looking for him because he wasn't answering his phone or anything. And she called one woman who was at the house named Jennifer McCabe, and her and another woman named Carrie Roberts went out looking for him. They found him on the lawn at Brian Albert's house where she dropped him off, and she freaked out. She didn't know how it happened. She thought maybe, could I have hit him? Did I hit him? And had no idea how he got there. And then she later found out that John went inside the house and that he was beaten up inside the house and chewed up by a dog. And then they put him on the lawn to die from hypothermia.
I mean, that's honestly, I could not have done it better than that. So let's get into some more details. It involves two Boston cops that we know of. It involves the ATF somehow. This guy worked at the ATF, this guy Higgins. It involves the state police, the idiot state police guy. But they're all somehow connected. They're either best friends, they grew up together. Is this all like it's almost like a Canton mafioso, if you get, without a better term. These people were all looking out for each other from your reporting, from what I saw in the courtroom. But the one question that I had from the beginning, and I think you could probably answer this, why exactly wouldn't a Boston cop inside the house look out for another Boston cop? I know that they weren't very close. John O'Keefe, the guy who died, and Brian Albert weren't close, and he's better friends with Higgins, the ATF guy, I get it, who, by the way, had designs on Karen Reed. But, I mean, Boston cop is a Boston cop. You would assume that immediately you would take up for the other cop. Why didn't they?
Because they killed him. I mean, it was an accident. I think it was an accident. Like, I don't think they killed him on purpose. I think it was a fight gone wrong. I think that's what most people believe, that he fell back and hit his head on some sort of stair or ridge surface or whatever, caused a 3-inch laceration in the back of his head. And they had a situation on their hands where they have a Boston cop dying in their house, and they're going to get blamed for it. And they don't want to go to jail. So they immediately go into self-preservation mode, and they just say, we'll take care of this. We'll say he never came in the house. That was their whole story. Just say he never came in the house. And they've stuck to that story, and it worked.
If he went into the house that night, they have no story. If she hits him with the car that night, then the case is closed. So they had to prove that, one, he didn't go in the house, and two, that she definitely hit him with the car. They didn't get even close, did they?
About proving that he hit him with the car?
That she hit him with the car, or that he didn't go in the house.
Yeah, I mean, people disagree on whether or not he was hit by a car. Of course, they didn't prove it because they acquitted her. So,
Right.
but if you ask some of these yahoos on Twitter, they might tell you otherwise. But yeah, certainly. I mean, when you have 4 or 5 doctors testifying that he wasn't hit by a car, and honestly, common sense, you look at John's injuries in John's body, and that guy wasn't hit by a car. Like, you don't get dog bites from being hit by a car. You don't have that laceration in the back of the head from falling on the grass on Brian Albert's front lawn.
Right.
Like, that's not going to happen. So it just didn't add up. And they tried to make sense of it. They said that his arm got cut up from the taillight and that his head hit the ground was hard as a rock. And that's what caused the laceration in the back of it. I mean, it was nonsense. It was complete and utter nonsense. And the jury certainly wasn't buying it. So yeah, I don't think anyone else is either.
He's an award-winning journalist. Go and follow him right now, tvdailynews.com. What is your name over on Twitter again? I either we follow each other or we're about to. I'm not sure. I know that you tagged me on something yesterday. What is it?
I am at Dr. Turtleboy, DOCTOR Turtleboy.
At Dr. Turtleboy. Go follow him on X. And again, tvdailynews.com. It's Aiden Kearney. So as I'm watching the case unfold, it's clear that they were trying to avoid all of the actual ins and outs, the innuendo that was going on, the destruction of phones and SIM cards and everything else. The state police guy saying disgusting things and basically saying that she's effed because of what they were going to do as far as framing. But in watching the case unfold, again, it goes back to that night at the bar. And if you watch the video for the bar, first of all, it's 2025. Can they get a better video camera in the bar?
I know.
What was that thing? So I'm looking at it, and I'm seeing this guy Higgins is staring at Karen. And then he sends some text about question mark, because they've been flirtatious before. They kissed one time, but John and Karen seem to be fine that night. They seem to be getting along just fine. John's paying the bill, and Higgins is now starting to freak out. He's waving, he's making noise. You got the Albert brothers holding him back. What do you think transpired after that, what we didn't see?
I mean, we don't know. I mean, the moment within 30 minutes of that video, John's dead. So,
and he looked to be having a fine night, and he and Karen were getting along fine.
Yeah, they were getting along fine. They were lovey-dovey. They were described as that. Karina Kolakithis testified to that. There's video of them at the waterfall being affectionate. So it just doesn't add up to she decided she was just going to kill him. Like, it makes no sense. Whereas you see Brian Higgins at the end of the waterfall video yelling in John's direction, and he's got to be held back by Chris Albert and Brian Albert. And John's kind of like doing this thing like, okay, tough guy, and then gets back to the house. And he texted John, like, are you coming? And it was just weird that he would text him that. And when she drops him off there, he goes inside, according to her. This is kind of confirmed by Ryan Nagel, Heather Maxson, and Ricky D'Antano, who pull up behind them. And all three testify that Karen Reed's alone in the car. So if Karen Reed's alone in the car, where's John? If he's not in the house, you tell me. They still haven't answered that one, where John is. So John goes into the house, and from there, it's your guess is as good as mine, but he doesn't come out of that house with a pulse. So something happened to him inside that house, and he was nefariously put out on the lawn to make it look like he never came in and that something had happened to him outside the house.
Man, it's just, I'm telling you, those of you who have not followed this case, go follow this guy right now. It's Aiden Kearney. He's known as Dr. Turtleboy. Go to tvdailynews.com. The videos that he's got on this, the explainers that he's got on this are really, really stark. In watching the whole thing unfold, you keep on hearing the Alberts say, well, Colin was there, he wasn't there. Then the daughter was there, she wasn't there. They're screwing with the times because it's very important what time these people came and left. Do we have any idea the actual timeline of the son? Because the son, who you exposed as somebody who's out there fighting all the time on video, says he never had a fight when he was testifying. So what sort of fingers should be pointed at him in a further investigation, if there will be one?
There won't be one, so don't hold your breath.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I mean, who's going to investigate him?
The FBI. I mean, if there's massive police collusion,
I mean, the FBI claims that their investigation is over. That's what they claim. So, we'll see. I mean, they've had a long time to investigate him. Colin Albert, he was the nephew of the homeowner, Brian Albert. He's the son of Chris Albert, who was also at the waterfall that night. And he is known to be like they used to be neighbors with John O'Keefe, and according to Karen, he used to throw beer cans on the lawn, and
Right.
it was really
They didn't get along. Yeah.
They didn't get along, and so he's at the house. They deny he's at the house, right? To this day, they are insisting this kid's not in the house, which is just weird because if nothing happened inside the house, who cares if he's in the house? Like, what? The fact that they're trying so hard to keep Colin out of that house is very suspicious.
Right.
Colin makes a phone call to another girl named Erin Beatty at 12:33 a.m., right? And that's right after Karen had left. And so it just seemed like he was trying to establish an alibi at that time, which was just odd. Kids that age don't call each other on the phone. I don't even think they understand that phones have the function of actually calling other people. They just text, they do FaceTime, they don't call. So it was really out of character for him to do something like that. And, you couple that with the fact that he lied on the stand. I mean, his knuckles were all carved up a couple weeks later still, like scabbed over.
Right.
And he testified that he got that way because he fell on the ice and braced his fall with his knuckle, exclusively cutting himself like right there. I mean, it was just all the lies. It's like, who lies? Like why? What are you lying about? Like,
Aiden, listen, I'm from New York originally, so I've been in cold weather. I live in Texas now, where it doesn't get that cold. But I've fallen on the ice and I've fallen in the snow, and I never ever close my hand and say, let me brace myself with my knuckles. That's never happened. So I mean, that didn't make any sense either. But again, I mean, he just gets away with it. Okay, I fell and I hit my knuckles. I was punching the ground as I was falling. But again, establishing where they were and when they were there is a really, really big deal. And do you think that's a lot of the reason why she was exonerated as well? That they couldn't place themselves in the right place at the right time at all. They're all butt dialing each other in the middle of the night.
None of that stuff even came out in the second trial. Like none of those people were called in the second trial. They were all called in the first trial. So the second jury didn't even meet any of these people.
Because the prosecution knew that they were screwed if they would have brought them back, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that they just didn't want the defense to be able to go with the conspiracy route, and they're bad liars. I mean, like if they don't believe them, you're screwed.
Right.
And so they wanted to just keep it simple, and the defense had the option to call them as well. But I think they wanted to keep it simple as well. I think they wanted to keep it as simple as, instead of trying to convince the jury that this conspiracy happened, it was an easier sell to just convince them that there's no evidence that John was hit by a car. If John's not hit by a car, then Karen Reed didn't kill him. And we don't know who did. And the foreman has been interviewed since, and he's like, I don't know. It's not my job to find out who killed John O'Keefe. It's my job to determine if Karen Reed did it beyond a reasonable doubt. And not even close.
It is Aiden Kearney. He is known as Dr. Turtleboy. Go and check out his daily news site. It is tbdailynews.com. tbdailynews.com. He's an award-winning journalist. I want to talk about the scene of where John was found. They found his shoe. Was that actually his shoe? Did they go and find another shoe that looked like it? If so, how does it end up where it was? I know it's speculation, but was that actually his shoe, do you think?
Yeah, so when the Canton police arrived there at 6 a.m. and they searched the scene at like 7 a.m. with their leaf blower, they didn't find any taillight or a shoe. None of that was there. They would have, yeah, because less than 2 inches of snow had fallen at that point. So John was found with one shoe on. You find a guy with one shoe on outside of a house. There's no other shoe around. Don't you go in that house and look around? Don't you say, can we look around in there? Like, there's a weird guy. There's a guy here with one shoe on. What's going on here? We take a look inside your house. And they never did that, of course. Now, fast forward 12 hours later, after 18 inches of snow had fallen, and the state police take over, and they do a search there. And lo and behold, they find what the Canton police couldn't find with less than an inch or two of snow, his shoe. So they do find his other shoe, but there was 12 hours there to put it there. That scene was left unattended.
And luckily, the leaf blower was videoed. And we saw that there was no taillight. We saw there was no shoe. So, I mean, again, this is speculation. I'm sure that you've got a thought in your mind about how this might have worked. So might there have been blood on the shoe? They had to clean it up before they put it back out there. Maybe, when he falls down, I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to figure out why would the two, they wanted me to believe that she hit him with the car and he flew out of his shoe. Come on.
Yeah. I mean, it was unbelievable. So,
do you have any thoughts about where the shoe was and why they placed it there 12 hours later?
The shoe was in the house. The shoe was inside the house. That's right. And so they put it out there later because he's missing a shoe. They probably just forgot it. They're just like, oh, shit.
Well, they were all drunk, right?
Yeah, we got to get this shoe out of here. So they can't have his shoe in the house. So we throw the shoe outside later on. Now the taillight suddenly started appearing when the state police showed up. The state police started their grid search at 5:21, right? They don't find any in the first 15 minutes, right? And then the car arrives. Karen Reed's car arrives after being towed from her parents' house in Dayton. It arrives at the Canton Police Sallyport garage at 5:35, and Michael Proctor immediately is on video going towards the taillight. And then 20 seconds, there's a 20-second skip, and you see this ghost-looking guy just kind of walk from where Michael Proctor was and then just leave. And that's at 5:36. Wow. At 5:41, the first piece of taillight is found. And it's only like a 1 mile ride from the Canton Police Department to Brian Albert's house. So whoever that was in that video, and the state police CERT team commander, Lieutenant O'Hara, testified that at the search, there was at least 3 or 4 unidentified people who showed up, either Canton police. He believed they were Canton police. He didn't know who they were, though. He didn't recognize them. And one of them found a piece of taillight, 4 pieces of taillight, actually.
Imagine that.
After the car arrived back at the Canton Police Sallyport garage. So, again, they didn't find it in the morning. They didn't find it when they were from 5:21 to 5:45. They find it as soon as 10 minutes after the car arrives back in Canton. They suddenly find taillight, and then that's only 4 pieces though. That's what they find that day, and then they keep go every day thereafter, like on 5 or 6 separate occasions. They keep finding more taillight. Including the biggest piece on February 18th, which is 3 weeks later. Michael Proctor claims he found a piece about this big, and it was just gigantic. And if you look at pictures, videos of Karen Reed's taillight at 5:07 that morning when she goes out searching for him, later on that afternoon at 4:12, her taillight is cracked clearly, but it's not shattered. And the Dayton police officer, Nicholas Barrows, testified that it absolutely did not look like, when he saw the taillight when it was towed from Karen Reed's parents' house, he said it absolutely did not look like it did after state police took custody of it.
I mean, the whole taillight debacle, it tells the whole story. Originally, in the first case, and I don't know if they showed this in the second case, I didn't watch the entire trial. My wife did, but I didn't watch everything. They had the video of the Sallyport, it was inverted to make it look like they were all hanging out by the left taillight, not the right taillight. Thankfully, the police was backward and everything else, so they put it the right way. And you see these guys clearly back doing something in the taillight area. And you're right, Barrows does, his testimony is clear. I saw it. It worked. It was still there. There was a crack, but nothing more. Maybe just a little sliver that was out of it. By the time we saw it, in testimony later, it was completely blown out to where it wouldn't even work. So It just didn't make any sense. And you're right. All of a sudden, that taillight ends up on the scene. And again, you've got the state police, a guy who's known these families forever. You've got the Brennan family, the Albert family. You've got the McCabe family. Brennan was the prosecutor, by the way, this time. Some special prosecutor that they grabbed, who appeared to have some sort of a knowledge of Cannoni, because they looked at each other in very odd ways during this case, which was very strange. Cannoni was the judge, for those who don't know. But there's so much there that's hard to put together. The one that I want to hone in on is the Sallyport that you talked about. You had that Dever. Don't say Deaver. You'll be in trouble if you say Deaver. You had Officer Dever, who was there in the 911 room, the dispatch room, and you've got a video, and she tried to deny it. You've got a video feed from the Sallyport. She saw them there at the car, she told us, and then she said she didn't. It was a false memory. Now, Aiden, I don't know about you. I've never had a false memory like that in my life. What do you make of that whole thing?
Well, she testified that she saw, she told the FBI when she was grand juried as part of their investigation into the investigation, she testified that she saw Brian Higgins, the ATF agent, and Ken Berkowitz, the police chief, who, by the way, also found a piece of taillight a week later on February 4th while driving by the house, that the two of them were in there for what she described as a wildly long period of time.
Right.
All right. And she testifies to that. And so that's at the federal grand jury, which is sealed. But, the defense gets access to this. The federal government gives this to them in a 2-week report in February of 2024. And so the defense gets this 2-week report, and they're like, well, we obviously want her to testify. This is good stuff. And so they speak with her, and she changes her story. And she had changed her story after she no longer worked at the Canton police. She was now working in Boston police, and she had been called up to Commissioner Cox's office and apparently told to do the right thing. We know you'll do the right thing. And she interpreted that as, well, I better change my story. So all of a sudden she said, no, that whole thing where I thought I saw Higgins and Berkowitz in the garage, I couldn't have seen that. It was a false memory. I must have been daydreaming or something. So I've never heard of that before, but apparently it's funny that after being called up to the commissioner's office, she suddenly realized she had a false memory, whatever that means.
Let's talk a little bit further about that. It's Aiden Kearney. It's Dr. Turtleboy. Go to tvdailynews.com, tvdailynews.com. So she gets called to the commissioner's office, which doesn't happen for like a rookie or a sophomore cop. It just doesn't. But let me go even further back. Do you think she gets the job at the Boston PD, which is obviously going to pay better than Canton would, because of this case, and maybe to butter her up a little bit and say, hey, let's make sure that we're on the same page?
I don't think it's that complicated, because she got the job with Boston police shortly after John O'Keefe was killed.
Brian Albert had some pull, didn't he, in Boston?
Yeah, but I don't know if there's any connection to Brian Albert between the two. I know they're from the same town. She's close to the same age as her daughter, Caitlin. Okay. But I think that she just was understood her job. Like, she's a rookie cop, gets called up there. The boss tells her, we know you'll do the right thing. Why is he even talking to her about her testimony at all? Why?
Should not be.
Why is that even a topic of discussion that he should bring her up there and speak to her about? It's none of his business. It's not Boston's case. Why doesn't he want justice? Doesn't he want, this is a Boston cop that was killed. Like, doesn't he want the truth to come out? Like, why would, and so this, Kenny Berkowitz, the police chief, he's got a lot of ties to the Boston police. Like, he's buddies with Chief Willie Gross, who was the police chief before Commissioner Cox. So I don't know. And the prior police chief in Boston was Greg Long, who lives in Canton. So it's just these people all protect each other and their image. And Karen Reed was expendable.
How far is the bird flies as Canton to Boston? Is it right there?
It actually, a small corner of it touches Hyde Park, which is like the southernmost part of Boston. So, it's to get from, Canton proper to downtown Boston is like 25 minutes probably.
Let's talk about the dog. So you got the dog for 6 years, family dog, obviously doesn't like strangers. You and I both saw the pictures. The experts said it was a dog bite and dog scratches on John's arm. There were no bruises on his body like what would have happened had he got hit by a car. So what happens to the dog? Suddenly the dog's gone. We felt like rehoming the dog. Tell me about the dog.
Yeah. Like you said, he's got these marks on his arm that are like parallel in pairs too. And he's got a couple of them appear to be like sharp punctures. And how do you explain that? They're exclusively on one arm, and they look exactly like a dog bite would be if you shielded your face like that, and the dog, latched onto your arm. And a trained police dog will latch onto you and will just cause like puncture holes in your arms. Right. Whereas an untrained dog like Chloe had a history of biting people, will bite you, and if you pull your arm away, it'll do that. And that's what would cause that. And coincidentally, a few months after John O'Keefe was killed, they decided that this family dog, it was time to rehome this family dog of 6 or 7 years, and never been seen again. They claim that Chloe's still alive and living somewhere in Vermont. They won't say where. They won't say who owns Chloe, but they pinky swear that Chloe's alive. And they didn't keep the arm tissue samples from John's arm, so there was no way to test if there was dog DNA on his arm or anything like that.
When you saw the testimony or the prosecution telling the jury, and he was actually questioning somebody, I guess the expert that the defense had, about the back of the shirt having holes in it, they had to know that was a criminologist that made the holes, right? But they wanted the jury to believe that that's when John got hit by the car and slid on the ground and it made the holes in the back of the shirt. Did that tell you right then, Aiden, that they're desperate at this point? They'll do anything to try to win because they're losing.
Yeah, they're desperate. They're evil. That's evil. How else do you describe that? He knows those holes did not come from the ground. He knows that his own criminalist did that. She previously testified to it, but he was trying to make the jury believe that they did. And the judge just didn't seem to think it was that big of a deal. She, explained to the jury afterwards that he was wrong to do that. You know, he shouldn't have said that. It was a mistake. Even Hank Brennan admitted it because he knows there's no consequences for it. He knows it was a kangaroo court in there. He could do whatever he wanted. He knew that she would never hold his feet to the fire like she did with the defense, and she was just completely biased in favor of the prosecution.
I felt like Karen Reed was being framed. I know that you felt that way too. She certainly, that was her defense. She was being framed. But so I go in with a little bit of a bias because I was on that side already. But in watching it just as a layperson, and you were in the court until they told you couldn't be in the court. I want to get into that in a second. It appeared as though she was taking the objections of the prosecution, sustaining them, and then forgetting the objections of the defense. Am I wrong about? I don't know if anybody counted them, but it appeared as though she was always on the prosecution's side.
Yeah, I mean, I lost count. I think there was like 28 in a row at one point of objections sustained. Anytime they weren't allowed to bring up the federal investigation, they weren't allowed to bring up the fact that the ARCA experts, the crash reconstruction experts, were hired by the FBI to determine, because they were looking into this. You know, they weren't allowed to even bring up Judd Welcher's report. He was the prosecution expert, crash reconstructionist. They weren't allowed to criticize it or anything. So yeah, it was just completely, she couldn't hide her bias towards the defense. And, it felt like it was 2-on-1 most of the times in that courtroom.
Well, was Welcher the guy that got the $400,000 to stick his arm out and get hit with the blue paint? Was that guy?
That was his crash reconstruction.
Hey, I want that job. Come on, Turtleboy, help me get that job. I mean, that was so. He walks into it and he shows, look, it's exactly where the dog bit John. I mean, that didn't make any sense. $400,000, and it didn't work. And I'm glad that the jury did the right thing. It's Turtleboy. Go to tvdailynews.com. tvdailynews.com. One last question about the scene. The house was built by what? Brian Albert's father or his grandfather?
I think his father. I mean, I think it's.
And then they suddenly sell the family house.
Yeah, they suddenly sold the family house and moved to the neighboring town of Norwood, and for $50,000 less than asking price. So, funny how that works out. I mean, everything about their behavior was suspicious. They were never investigated. We'll probably never find out who killed John O'Keefe simply because the police didn't do their job. They gave this guy every ounce of discretion and preference that they would never give anyone else. They didn't search the house, and so. They didn't separate the witnesses or treat them as suspects or try to rule them out or anything like that. So for that reason, we'll probably never find out who killed John O'Keefe, sadly.
I mean, and that is sad. I hope that the FBI. I actually know Cash. I'll see if we can get Cash.
Good.
Dan
Good.
Bongino,
Yeah, I hope
something.
we do.
I mean, literally. I hope something happens. But when I heard that this cop, who'd been a cop a long time, didn't even walk outside to see why there was police activity in his front yard. No, it's as if nobody was allowed to leave the house that morning. I was swatted not very long ago, just a quick aside. And I've been in broadcast for a very long time, 36 years. As soon as there was something going on outside of my house, I got on the phone with 911, and then I walked out there and talked to the 7 cops that were in my front yard. That's what you do as a homeowner, even if you're not in the business, even if you're not a cop. So what do you make of nobody walks out, nobody cares that there's a full investigation and a dead body happening in the front yard?
Well, he claims that he was sleeping through it. He was drunk the night before. He slept through it. But he's factoring in the fact they both testified that the dog was in their room. That dog is going to wake you up. An aggressive German Shepherd is going to bark. And his window was the closest one to right in the front of the house to where John's body was discovered. There was bright red lights from the fire trucks everywhere, a screaming, hysterical woman. And he just slept through the whole thing. Like, and he was on TV the other day. He's like, what was I supposed to do? I was in my underpants. Go out there. Maybe put a pair of pants on. Yeah, he said, he goes, I would have taken a bullet for John O'Keefe. He was a fellow cop. You wouldn't have put pants on for John O'Keefe. You wouldn't have gone, you wouldn't go outside in the snow for John O'Keefe. The nerve of this guy to say something is insensitive of that.
Well, he also said, I'm a Boston cop. I have no jurisdiction. I couldn't go out and help them. Again, it's in your front yard. You go outside and see what the hell's going on.
That's like saying a lifeguard. It's like, you're drowning in the lake. It's like, I work at the pool. I'm a lifeguard at the pool. I don't do lakes. Like, okay, you can swim, can't you? Like, what the hell?
That's exactly right. It's Aiden Kearney. Go and check him out, tvdailynews.com, tvdailynews.com. Let me talk about you. Why were you arrested? Why were you a target in this case?
So, I'm a target of this case because I've gone up to the people who I believe are acting suspiciously and responsible for the death of John O'Keefe, and I ask them questions in public, and I confront them and make them feel uncomfortable. I went up to Jen McCabe at one of her kids' lacrosse games because I knew she'd be there, and people like, oh, it's a kids' sporting game. There was no kids around. They were all in the field. I went up to the top of the stands where I knew she was. She's going out in public like none of this is happening. Like everybody knows what she did, and she's just walking around like Queen of France, like nothing, like nothing happened.
Right.
And so I go up to her and I'm like, why did you Google how long to die in cold at 2:27? Why did you delete all those phone calls, Jen? Why did you do this? Why did you do that? And it goes on for 5 minutes, and I call them cop killers, and then I leave. And that was felony witness intimidation, they said, because I caused her emotional harm. If you cause emotion, Massachusetts is the only state in the country where our witness intimidation statute makes it illegal to cause emotional harm, whatever that means, to somebody who is a quote witness in a case. So all she had to do
but the First Amendment supersedes that, Aiden. It does. If you've got the freedom of the press, you're a journalist.
You would think it does. But the legislature passed an unconstitutional law, and they signed it into law, and it is what it is. They're just exploiting this unconstitutional law. And I've been indicted on, they indicted me on 9 counts of felony witness intimidation initially.
Oh, my goodness.
I've had 2 of them dismissed with the police, with Michael Proctor and Yuri Buchanan, but there's still, I think I have 6 counts remaining of that. Each carries 10 years in prison. They sent the state police fugitive unit to my house to apprehend me. They arrested me at my kid's bus stop. I went to jail for 60 days. They're relentless. And so it's the same exact cops who were involved in the Karen Reed investigation, who I accused of being complicit in this, showed up at my kid's bus stop. I mean, they couldn't make it more transparent that they're doing this to try to shut me up.
So if a journalist or a reporter from Channel 5 goes and asks her the same questions, they could be arrested?
Yeah, I mean, it's happened. We've seen another from Channel 10, NBC 10, a journalist did show up at Michael Proctor's house and asked him similar questions, and they weren't charged. Just me. So like this is a very selective prosecution. I've also held protests. I have a bigger reach than them. I'm more effective than them. So like they're ultimately trying to do this to me. And it would be more outrageous if they did it to them. Like I'm a little bit off the cuff. I use foul language. I'm a little rough around the edges. So like arresting me, it doesn't get the same headlines as if, they arrested some reporter from, local television.
Well, I mean, it certainly got the people out there to protest and to camp out in front of the courtroom. So I'm glad that you're involved in this. I'm glad that you have the backbone to deal with their fake arrest, and I hope that all this goes away for you. It's Aiden Kearney. Go and follow him right now, tvdailynews.com. And you said it's Dr. Turtleboy over on X?
Yeah, Dr. Turtleboy. That's right.
Go follow him there. Last question here. You were also told that you couldn't be in the courtroom on certain days because the witnesses were, afraid of you? If they saw you in the courtroom, they were afraid to testify? What was that?
Yeah, anyone who I'm charged with intimidating, including Jennifer McCabe, Big Bad Brian Albert, Colin Albert, any of these people, they claim that they would be scared of me and I would cause them emotional harm. So I was not allowed to be in the same room as them when they testify. But luckily, only a couple of them were actually called. Just Jennifer McCabe was the only one that was actually called. So I was able to be in the courtroom for a significant amount of testimony. Yeah. Well,
I know that the O'Keefe family is suing Karen Reed civilly. I think that they're going to lose. I think Karen Reed will win. Do you think she's got a case against the DA's office?
I've heard it's like an uphill battle to sue, or else anybody who was found not guilty of a crime could sue. You know what I mean? So like,
this is so egregious, though. I mean, she's got the goods.
It is. It would be more egregious if the federal government had indicted someone else. I think she would have a much stronger case then. So they'll just be able to hide behind, well, we believe she did it. We followed the facts, and she was acquitted. So you can't sue us for that. So there's immunity, and I don't know how this all works, but it seems like an uphill battle.
I'm with you. Listen, Aiden, thanks for coming on. Aiden Kearney. It's Kearney is his last name. He's known as Dr. Turtleboy. Go and follow him, tvdailynews.com. You're the reason why we know about this case. You're the reason why this nationwide audience will hear your take on it now. And really thank you for shining a light on this. Anything else you're working on, let us know, okay?
I will do, Joe. Thanks for having me.
Really enjoyed that conversation with Aiden Kearney. Turtleboy. Why is he called Turtleboy? I did ask him about that, and he filled me in. It turns out it's because of where he's from. the city in Massachusetts. I'll get into that in a little while because I think it's important to find out. Everybody's just calling him Turtleboy and Dr. Turtleboy. What is that about? Well, we were going to fill you in on what that's about. One thing we know, though, at the conclusion of this case, the first trial, they found her not guilty in all the murder and all the second degree and manslaughter, all that stuff. She was not guilty again. They were confused about the drunk driving, it turned out. In this case, same thing, but they came to the conclusion that, yes, she did drive while under the influence, but no, she had nothing to do with the cause of death of her boyfriend, John O'Keefe. John O'Keefe's killer is still out there if that's the case. John O'Keefe's murder or death has no justice yet. Will there be? And again, you saw me talking to Turtleboy about that, and he says, the FBI says, they're not investigating anymore, which is very interesting to me because there's a new FBI now. Maybe under the FBI that we had last time with Christopher Wray, maybe then you're not going to get any sort of solution. But under Kash Patel and under Dan Bongino, you would think maybe there's something going on there. I do know them both, and I will contact them to find out if there's going to be any follow-up. Now, a lot of people who've been following this case have not seen what happened immediately after she was found not guilty. And Karen Reed, her lawyer, and, of course, her father walked out of the courtroom, and they did walk up to the microphone to say a few words. I want to bring that to you right now. And then after this, I'll tell you why he's called Turtleboy.
Here they come.
Now, I didn't know what that was at first, this whole thing that they're doing, this thing, but I guess it means I love you? I guess that's what it means. I thought it was like, what is that, like bullhorns? I didn't know what it was.
Watch out. Right here.
I just want to say two things. Number one is I could not be standing here without these amazing supporters who have supported me and my team financially and, more importantly, emotionally for almost 4 years. And the second thing I want to say is no one has fought harder for justice for John O'Keefe than I have and my team. Thank you.
So do you want to see it reopened? Karen, do you want to see the case reopened? Should the case be reopened? No, the case cannot be reopened. This case is over. No, I mean, the case is searching for somebody else. What did you say? Just what you say about
somebody asking Attorney Alan Jackson, should the case be reopened? And he said, no, it's over. The case cannot be reopened. In other words, they can't try her again. That would be double jeopardy. But what the questioner is actually asking, I think, is, should the case be reopened to find out what happened to John?
I'm going to leave it to Karen and her dad. Her dad has a comment. Let her dad make a comment.
Mr. O'Keefe, what did you
Thank
say
you,
about justice?
Mr. Reed. I want to acknowledge the strength
The idiot reporter says Mr. O'Keefe. His name is Mr. Reed.
of our daughter Karen, the support of the entire Reed extended family. I want to acknowledge the greatest team of attorneys. Our first one that we found was David Yannetti. We added Alan Jackson and Liza Little. Bob Alessi, you know about. All right? It was a fantastic team, but we needed them all to defeat this. We thank everybody for their support from the heart. We love you all of the content providers who help spread the word. Thank you so much. God bless you all.
Investigation. Let's do this. Let's get that.
That's what Karen Reed, her attorney, Alan Jackson, and her father had to say when they walked out of the courtroom. I mean, literally, I didn't turn the volume down because I wanted you to sort of get the feel of what was going on. It was almost like some sort of a rock concert. Obviously, it's a very serious case. Obviously, somebody is dead, and we don't know who did it yet. Obviously, somebody's got to investigate, but if Turtleboy is right, then there won't be any more investigations. I'm going to do my due diligence and do my best to get a hold of the people over at the FBI to find out what might happen now. All right, so let's switch gears completely. Why do they call Aiden Kearney Turtleboy? And I asked him that, and he sent me this link. It's from something called Atlas Obscura. Now, it looks like Worcester, Massachusetts. It's not. It's Worcester. Worcester, Massachusetts. This is where Turtleboy or Aiden Kearney is from. And here's the article written in something called Atlas Obscura, the Burnside Fountain and its questionable interpretation, written by somebody named Nikolai Chiacchio, looks like. When Harriet Burnside died in 1904, she left $5,000 in her will to finance a commemorative memorial for her father. Whether or not she would have approved of the memorial that ultimately emerged will forever remain a matter of speculation, and it is not the only unanswered question surrounding the Burnside Fountain, known locally simply as Turtleboy. The fountain, originally intended to provide water for humans, dogs, and carriage horses, made no immediate splash, though the basin itself was designed by Henry Bacon, who went on to design the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. A newspaper from the time reported Mayor O'Connell believes it would be well to have the fountain placed in use without a ceremony. Why the clandestine unveiling? The reason may be that the body of the statue's designer and sculptor, Charles Y. Harvey, had not long before been discovered in Bronx Park, New York, with his throat slit and near two straight razors. It appeared as though this gruesome death was by his own hand, and the shadow of that tragedy may have overshadowed the fine craftsmanship he poured into the fountain. Harvey hadn't finished the statue at the time of his suicide, and the task was completed by Sherry Fry, a sculptor most well known for camouflaging frontline American units during the First World War. Adding to the string of strangeness attributed to Turtleboy's story was his theft in May of 1970 and subsequent anonymous return in September of that same year. Turtleboy is less known today for his history than for his form. It is impossible to view the sculpture without questioning the claim that it represents a boy riding a turtle. The boy's determined gaze and the turtle's strained expression suggest a more bestial interpretation. There are no angles from which the sculpture's innocence is obvious. What Harvey's original intentions were for the design of the Burnside Fountain are unknown. Today, Turtleboy has been accepted reluctantly by some, enthusiastically by others, as Worcester's unofficial mascot. Shirts have been printed and songs have been written to commemorate Turtleboy's lascivious engagements, but nothing beats a look up close and personal at the real thing in the southeast corner of Worcester Common. The statue was restored in June of 2021, removing the green coloration and bringing it back to the original bronze patina. There you go. That's why he's called Turtleboy. And that's going to do it for this episode of Unshaken and Unafraid with Joe Pags. Hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you share this. Don't forget to follow. Don't forget to subscribe. And don't forget, we're going to drop another one of these very soon. Keep it here.